Welcome to Trekkie and Beyond, a Star Trek podcast. I'm Moneca.
And I'm Andrea. And join us because we are doing a series discussion of Star Trek Discovery. We have 5 seasons of information to discuss. There is so much to discuss in this episode. I don't know if we're going to get through everything we want to, but we're going to try. In this episode, we have an amazing guest. As you guys know, in the past, sometimes when we do reaction videos, we like to bring a guest on who can also give us their thoughts about Star Trek, because you just don't want to hear our voices, as lovely as they are. So today we have an amazing guest with us from the Sci-Fi Sisters podcast, who is amazing. If you haven't checked them out, you need to. Subrina, welcome.
Hey, whoop whoop, everybody. How you doing? I am Sister Subrina from the Sci-Fi Sisters. And if you don't know the show, where you been? But we are 4 Black women who look at science fiction from a Black woman's point of view. So we do it all, Trek, everything. But why I got into Trek, particularly, we're all Trekkies on that show. And I'm an OG. I'm one of those ones that was there with Whoopi watching the show from back in the day. Me, Whoopi, and a couple of other people. So I have loved Star Trek for decades, and then came Discovery. Oh my God. And I just love it. We got into Discovery really defending it. If you know the Sci-Fi Sister origin story, we came together because we were all at a convention and listening on a panel, and we just couldn't get in to talk about Sonequa and the show and what it meant enough as far as we were concerned. We came out of that panel boiling mad and said we were going to make our own show so we could talk about Sonequa all day long. We were just going to talk blackity black sci-fi all day long. So that's how it all started.
Well, we are so happy to have you here because we need that. We need more podcasts to discuss this. And so this episode, we're going to be discussing Discovery, which, in my opinion, was the resurgence of Star Trek in this new, in the last 5 to 10 years. So let's go into our initial reactions of the series. And again, from past recap episodes, we're going to do this in a round robin. We're going to each take our turn to discuss things, and you guys are just going to enjoy and agree and maybe disagree.
One of the things I dived into after watching the series finale was to rewatch some of my favorite episodes from Star Trek Discovery. And I realized also how much I love these characters. And we've been talking about the growth and the arcs along the way, but just the building on it. There's complete synergy between the first, that pilot episode, and the finale. That's not to say the case for many other shows. And so I love the overallness. I think that Discovery, the ship, the series was ahead of its time, and in more ways than one. And it's hard to be edgy. It's hard to be innovative, right? And then take this a whole other futuristic stance in it, because it was innovative in both the production and the delivery, because it was streaming, and all of the state and art, tech behind the scenes to make this all happen, and how it unfold, and the serialized. I mean, that's different than the rest of the Star Trek series. It's just the level of complexity there, the innovation. I love the big stunts, the big text, the big stakes. Love it all. And I'm so sorry and sad that it's ended, but I was so thankful I'm around to enjoy this ride.
Well, just to piggyback on a lot of what you just said, this was one that in the 5 seasons, it was finally a complete story. And, we had the final happy ending. I mean, it wrapped up from the beginning when we first meet Michael all the way to the end. We go through her entire growth until she's an old woman and, has lived her life essentially. And we see has happened to her. And I love that they actually finished the story. Don't leave me hanging. And then all of the characters, one of my favorites, as you said, I was getting ready for this show, and I'm watching season 5, and then I'm running back to all the other shows. As a screenwriter myself, I was just struck by how much sci-fi was in the show. And I want to give a big shout out to all of the science advisors, Muhammad Noor and Erin McDonald and everybody else who kept this science for real and knew, and writers who, came up with it and then went to the science consultants to say, is this going to work? I mean, even the burn, I don't care what anybody says, but that was just some incredible thinking. I'm like, I, okay. I just loved it all. I mean, I didn't care, whatever kind of crazy stuff they would do. That's what sci-fi is. As long as you keep it in that story, you got that box, you give me what you think. Okay, you telling me this boy screamed and the whole world blew up. I'm there for it. Okay, so then what happened? Love it. And they never disappointed me with where they were going with the science.
Well, those are great initial reactions. Mine slightly differs, just slightly. For me, my reaction of the series is complete-ish. I feel like the story was complete, but not fully for me. I feel like there's so much that could have been discussed that was sort of left off to our imaginations, which is not a bad thing. I think for me, I feel like the ending could have changed slightly. I would have loved for like it to end with them just going on a new mission, like nothing changed. Like time passing was beautiful. It was great to see the fact that she got to live her life and she got to have a child and be married to love of her life. But another part of me was like, Discovery is about discovering, and so I felt like maybe I said this. I think maybe when we discussed episode 10, if it just ended with her after Saru's wedding, jumping onto the ship, and was like, all right, we're continuing. Like they're always discovering. So even though it did end that way in the future, for me, it was complete-ish because we get to see Michael grow throughout these 5 seasons. And I will admit, rewatching was not something I did because I tried, and season 1 Michael and season 5 Michael are 2 very different Michaels. And I was like, whoa, I'm not mentally prepared for season 1 Michael right now. And so it was complete in the way that she became who she was meant to be. She did grow. She did come into her captaincy. She left like behind the fear about who she was and always wondering. And we got to see her sort of grow, and it was beautiful. But it just felt like there was just something missing for me, just slightly. So I'm calling it complete-ish.
But speaking of Michael, she has had a moment of being in that mirror universe and in the Prime that I really loved. And that was one of my like biggest scenes that I remember, is seeing Michael in that gold and black uniform from the mirror universe and then challenging Giorgio. And then, like, that evil Michael side is actually very scary. And I love to see all things mirror universe. That storyline continued across 3 seasons in Discovery, and a little bit into season 5 when they talked about the ISS Enterprise, although we didn't see them. But that continued and had strong continuity there. I really like that whole what happens when you're born in a different universe and your environment impacts who you are. So then we had like Saru, who is different, and then Captain Killy, and we had like different versions. Even Paul was different, right? So we had all of these variations, and it talks about like, regardless of whether you're born, where you're born, your environment impacts you. And I really liked that whole concept of the mirror universe, and I think it was projected in a much better way for me than like in the original series.
The mirror universe is the only thing that ever got me to cosplay. I'm going to tell you right now. Discovery Mirror Universe actually got me to go find the gold belt and find stuff and put on the makeup. I never cosplay in so many conventions. And I mean, I was at the very first Star Trek convention, the first one in New York City. And this got me cosplaying.
Wow.
Loved it. That was like that was life. Oh my God. Mirror Universe of Discovery. Shut the front door.
The mirror universe for me was always like nature versus nurture, because you could see how different people were based on what their environment, like you said, what their environment was. And I will say, it hasn't gotten me to cosplay yet. I don't think I've ever cosplayed at a convention. I don't know which one I would. I don't know who I would, but if I did, it probably would be a Star Trek character if I did cosplay.
I got another one for Vegas that I'm putting together, and again, it's from Discovery. It's the only show that will get me to do it.
Or Lower Decks. But to see the different versions of people in the Mirror universe was very interesting. To see how Saru was somewhat similar but very different in a way. Like, he still had his almost like caring nature, his almost docile nature, but we see in the Prime universe he wasn't as docile. He was like hesitant, but like he was like, okay, let's ask questions first, then react. In the Mirror universe, we could see that he was a lot more docile because Kelpians were delicacies there. But to see that in season 5, we hear that
one
he
minute
was
you're
able
serving
to
dinner,
let
next
that go.
minute you are dinner.
Oh, which kelp? Oh, pick a Kelpian. Him. Oh, he tastes good. Oh my God, what did I do? That episode, that part of the episode, it was just like, oh, I thought she was picking a servant. They ate him. Okay, interesting.
They ate my boy. I was like, Lord help us. The whole buildup with Commander Raynor, I know he finally sit in that chair at all. And I just thought he did that so well. I like that character, really grew on me. I mean, and the actor, Colin Keith Rennie, he's a big time actor in Canada, and just came in there, like walked in, 5th season. You're coming in 5th season as another captain. I was like, who is this mug now? Like, what are we gonna have to deal with this guy? And then you end up loving him. I mean, I love the way Discovery did that with a few characters where you were just, oh no, I don't think so. And by the end of whatever the show or the episode, you were just turned around completely, or the other way.
I loved Raynor. I loved him from the very jump. And so Moneca and I never really agree sometimes. But I'm so happy to hear to say that you loved him, because to me, he was Michael first season. He still had a lot of hurt, a lot of things he needed to grow through. He had this extreme hatred, and then you find out why. And the same thing with Michael. She had this like extreme, like, adverse to Klingons, and you find out why, because like they killed her family. Like, we understand this. And Raynor was like Michael from season 1, unpolished, had a whole different upbringing, was very much act first, think later. Really abrasive, and I think that's why I liked him, because I've been told I am abrasive. I love him.
He was my Jellicoe. He was Jellicoe coming in on Discovery. Gotta love him. Like, who? You must not know who I am. He just came busting in, and I was like, oh, get the popcorn. This is gonna be good.
You're absolutely right. He came in on the 5th season and like stole the show in some episodes. It's like, oh,
right?
Okay.
You're gonna be going back like, well, what was Raynor doing in season 3? Wait, he wasn't there.
Can we talk about this? Like, what other Red directors have you been a part of, Raynor? Let's get a story about you, because I feel like he could tell a really great story about his life. And it was very interesting to see. I loved his character mainly because of how Michael was basically trying to do with him what Philippa, with Saru, with all the other past captains tried to do with her. Help her grow into who they were. And Raynor just needed someone who had a different upbringing than he did, to like, hey, I understand the hurt you're going through. I went through something similar. Let me help you grow. And oh my gosh, Raynor, yes, snaps and claps. Raynor was amazing. Moneca, seems like you want to say something about Raynor.
Okay, my initial reaction with Raynor was really like, oh, I don't want you to come in and like save the day. Like, my crew is already tight. I don't need you, and you're no Saru. So I had some like a wall up, around me. But once we went through the time bug episode and he was able to learn from them and grow, listen more than just give them, like, I don't know, 20 words to speak, then I was able to ease down and be more open to him.
That was a brilliant way to get, so much of what they had been through into him. So he got
Mm-hmm.
that ship now. He was like, oh, I know I had my brain stuff, but y'all had the control stuff. And what else happened? He was
Mm-hmm.
then like, yeah, I'll help y'all. But wow, that was
And it's very hard because it is very hard to understand someone if you don't know what they're going or what they've been through.
exactly.
And to see something just on paper, it's one thing to read it, it's another thing to see it and to like, oh, I've met you
Yeah.
before. Like I know. I don't know, but I know. Like I understand. I saw it. Okay, yeah, I get why you guys are a close knit family.
Hmm.
Um, More so than his crew, because his crew, they're coworkers, and Discovery was family. Which, in my opinion, there needs to be a healthy balance of both.
Right.
So
I don't need to know. I don't, because there's some family you don't really need to be around. So
yes. I'm going to discuss the worst season for me of this series. The season that I think could have completely gone very differently. I just did not like season 3. When the ending of season 3 happened and the result of the burn, I still just cannot forgive them for that. Because you start off with this huge new mystery. Okay, you're 900 years in the future. Literally, the world is at your fingertips. You can literally do anything because the slate is clean. You don't really have to hold to like making sure you stay in line with Deep Space Nine and Next Generation and all these other things
just
and
erase the
Enterprise. You don't
board.
really have to stay in line with that anymore. You could go crazy because you are so far into the future. And then there's a whole mystery. Millions of people died because the warp core blew up. Like this, the world is fractured, and I just cannot. I cannot. I cannot wrap my head around them blaming this on a child. Like, regardless of the fact that it was an accident, regardless of the fact that he had no idea, they put the death of millions of people onto a child's shoulder who had no idea of the world outside of the world that he lived in, that anything that he did affected anyone
Eh,
besides himself. It was the grief of losing his mother. He killed millions of other people, fractured the universe as we know it. And I remember watching that episode and was like, no, you have so many other villains you can use. There's so many other things. There's so many other ways this could have went, and it could have been like a very calculated, deep plot from something else that was intentional, and it was an accident. And I was just like, nah, y'all made me waste a season of my life on this one, and I still cannot forgive them for that one.
and you see them, in the writing, and they're like, okay, and then the kid screams about his mother, and everybody just went, oh no.
Moneca, go ahead.
I don't know why it's taken me this long to realize this, but then after with this rewatch, I noticed that not only are there A, B, C plots for typically each episode, there's also A, B, C plots for each season. And so I also think that the burn was used to help develop some conflict within the Federation and like allow them to make some connections with technology, because if they had dilithium and everything was able to prosper, the futuristic tech may have been much harder for us to comprehend, right? But I remember in this season 3, Asira, and she was a space pirate, and I like that B plot of that storyline in that season. So I'm trying to like not dwell on Sukal. Although I would love to see Sukal in the finale. I really wanted Sukal to give like a toast to Saru and Tarina at the wedding. But I'm
uh,
moving on
uh,
from that. That was my dream for the wedding. Well, one of many. But
The
but
32nd wedding.
I,
a Wesley Crusher like appearance at a wedding. Okay.
um, but I think that Asara was a strong female lead that took no prisoners, murdered her nephew for the sake of their cause of like showing that like everyone has to stay in line, she kicked butt. Asaro scared me.
Yeah, that was a waste of getting rid of her.
Yes, yes. There was so much more. This could have been a plot from the Orions. This could have been so much more. And I was like legit, I was let down so badly in a way that I just don't know if I ever forgave them for.
Right? They had some ending with, Orions and Breen coming together, some dust up with them.
Something. And season 3 was, I think, like it was already, I was like, okay, where is this going? Where is this going? Who did it? It was this huge mystery. And then that was to me the biggest letdown. And I was just like, oh, y'all broke my heart in a way that I didn't think y'all could. Okay.
I I just got over that. Only because you know what? I forgave them a little bit for it, even though it was crazy. The production episode was amazing. That episode where they
It was.
were going into that whole thing, and it went on a little longer. Saru talking to the old man or whatever was going on with that. I was like, what in the world? But the whole idea of them going down and I was just mesmerized by how that looked. Like you were saying earlier, the production values of that episode was cinematic. It was just the most gorgeous episode. The costumes, the makeup, the dialogue was even good. But other than that line, we were doing all right. But it was an amazing episode. If you just don't get to the whole lithium blew up, it was just the hardest substance known to man, and whatever, powering starships, and this kid just sneezes and everything goes to pot, whatever.
Resources are limited.
We've had a lot of fun in the first half discussing our initial reactions, our overview of the series. But now let's get into a little bit more about what we loved, maybe didn't love, about this series. So, Moneca, what is your second memorable moment, thought, love of the series?
Season 1 of Star Trek Discovery, I'm going to say it, was my favorite season of all of them. And
Okay.
it just keeps on giving.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
even rewatching it later after watching everything else, and I keep going back and I'm like, Lorca! Like, Paul, no, don't listen to him. Run, Lorca. Like, Paul, he's setting you up. He's just using you. So I found myself projecting to the screen. And even though I know where this is going, I know where all of this is going, I still felt the need to express myself.
To warn them.
That season was amazing. And also, like, the fact that they killed off a main character, not like the typical character that you don't know and you don't learn about, but when they killed Dr. Pulver, I was like, oh no. And we saw it on screen. It wasn't even like it was off screen. We heard it. It was a snap. I was like, oh. And it was by a fellow crew member. Like, oh, this show is so edgy, taking like lots of risk in this storyline, and this is where I felt like there was a lot more drama, a lot more soap opera, but I like that. I felt like this kept going, and circling back to Lorca for a minute, I did not see that coming. That he was the wolf, the bad wolf on the inside, because Starfleet captains are usually pure and just and like and so he had this long game plan, and we were just along for the ride. I felt like I was part of Discovery. I was Trek too, and so along for the ride, all so that he could get back to the mirror universe and conquer and take over Georgiou, and I was spellbound. So season 1 for me had lots of shocks, but the season just keeps on giving, and they came out strong, and I really loved it. I know there's a lot of haters out there, but I loved it. Paramount, I loved it.
Season 1 was really good. There was a lot. Ash killing Hugh, that was a lot. Everything that they were sort of going through, trying to know who to trust, who not to trust, what was going on with both the Klingons and the Mirror Universe. There was a lot happening in season 1. So
I love the look of the Klingons, the new Klingons. Lorca like destroyed the Klingon ship. Like Rayner told the Breen, like sent the Breen 20 light years away. No, Lorca just like fired several shots and destroyed the whole ship when the Federation told him, no, retreat. Crazy.
That's Mirror for you.
It's also very interesting when you think about it. Like, technically, we probably should have rooted for him in the Mirror universe because he was trying to stop a tyrant. Like, when you go back and look at it, it's like, oh, wait, hold up. He was trying to stop a tyrant. Maybe we should have helped him. Because, like, when you're watching it, you're definitely like, oh my God, Lorca's evil, Lorca's evil, Lorca's evil. And yes, he was. In Prime Universe, this man is evil. He is the evil version of himself, quote unquote. But in the Mirror universe, it's like, oh, you're actually the good guy.
Until maybe he got that throne. I don't know. He might have been as bad an emperor as she was, but that's the way they rolled back then, you know.
So, Subrina, into your second memorable moment, thought, process.
Let's just stay with Lorca because
okay.
I am one of those people that came. I knew there was something off with him. You know, I was picking up the clues, but I did not think Mirror. I was completely thrown when it was Mirror. But my favorite scene, absolutely, my entire favorite episode, I think it's called Past is Prologue. It's the one where they have the major dust up fight. It is Burnham and Giorgio, Mirror Giorgio and Burnham kicking everybody's butt. And Burnham, at the last part, she wins the fight with Lorca. She is fighting with this man who loves her. He loves her. He doesn't want to hurt her. Don't make me kill you. I love that line. It was like, oh, be sexy with me. Yeah, don't make me kill you, baby. What? And, you know, Burnham is like, you know, bop, 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 gets the draw on him and says, I'm Starfleet. I'm not going to kill you. And my girl, Giorgio, just comes up and the sword is in her back. I just went, all-time favorite scene. I loved it. And then put body into the flaming pit. I was like, that's my girl. Bring her to Prime Universe because we need
And Michael did just that without her permission. Just took her over.
Oh, that whole episode.
Georgia was that girl.
It was crazy. That whole episode had so much stuff going on in it that it was amazing. I mean, that fight scene. I don't know the fight choreographer that did that. It was amazing. Michelle Yeoh was doing all the stuff that she could do. That kick, she kicked my boy in the head from. Oh my God, it was like Landry got lashed in the back. Everybody went down. I was just sitting there. I played that over and over and over. It had been one of the most masterful fights I've ever seen in any drama. I mean, there was a lot of people in that scene, and I think it looked very K-drama-ish. It really did. It was like a lot of martial arts going on. Bruce Lee was, but I loved it. So that whole scene, from the death at the back, the sword in the back, oof, the whole thing.
Great ones. Going into my second, I started with the worst season. I'm going to go into what I thought for me was the best season. And the reason I'm going to preface this by saying this was the best season, because to me, this was the most fun. It seemed the most Star Trekkie type of season when I thought about all the seasons in the past, and that is season 2, because it was just fun. And if I ever said anything bad in the past episodes, podcast recordings, I'm retracting it now. I am allowed to grow and change my mind and come up with new thoughts. Season 2 was fun, and it was fun because the mystery was engaging. We got to see a bunch of new characters. It seemed more Star Trekkie and episodic in some ways, some forms. We get to meet, I believe, we meet Jet in this one, and she's like, oh yeah, I'm a scientist, but the human body is just like a computer, but organic. Let's figure this stuff out. We got Pike, we got Spock, we got Number One. It was a lot of just Star Trek, and it just made me feel like home for a moment. We saw the Discovery crew start to mesh a little bit more, and as they recover from everything that happened from season 1, we saw more of of Section 31. Like, it was just, we got so much in season 2 that I didn't appreciate it when I was watching it the first time, when I went through it the first time. But when I see all 5 seasons and I think about everything that happened, I'm like, oh, that was just fun. It was just, and then the ending, to find out who the Red Angel was and why the Red Angel was doing what it was doing. Not knowing who to trust in Section 31. Like, oh, you're the bad guy. Oh, actually, you weren't the bad guy. You were actually the good guy. Okay. Like, the shocking, just knowing, losing Ariam, and then, but not realizing how much I cared about her until, like, I saw her again in season 5, for that quick second. So it was a lot. It was so much happened in that season that I didn't even realize it until I thought about, oh wait, no, yeah, all of that happened in season 2. Only that, everything happened, all of that, everything that I really loved and was remembering, all happened in season 2. And for me, it was the biggest reveal of who the Red Angel was, and the fact that it was Michael's mom. And that shock, nothing else sort of shocked me more than that one. When they were like, okay, the Red Angel's there. What's going on? Okay. Oh my God, it's her mom. Her mom is not dead. Her mom is alive. Her mom was never dead. Her mom was always in the future. Her mom's been doing all these things to save her. And then at the last episode, to see how everything that had happened in, like, all the little episodic episodes of different things, of the different clues that they were following, how everything fell into place, how everyone they had helped in this season and in season 1 came back and was fighting for them at the end of season 2, as they were going to the future to stop control from trying to take control over everything, even though that's how we got Zora and she still annoys me. It was beautiful. And I just love season 2. And so that is me. That is my best season. So if you're listening to this and then you're remembering what I said about season 2 years ago, no, you didn't. No, you didn't.
Just coming clean.
Yes. I'm growing. It's called growth, people.
There you go. There you go. You know, we interviewed Michelle Paradise and Alex Kurtzman. You know, we got one of those Paramount interviews, and we told them that we thought that season 2 was some of the best Star Trek ever. Of all the episodes, season 2 had some of the best, and I've seen it all in real time. I'm here to tell you, I totally agree with you. That is the season. Wow. If you told me, oh, I don't think Discovery is really Star Trek, I said, oh, let me just queue up a few shows from you from season 2. Play.
It was just fun. It was a mystery that I could touch. It was an ending that I appreciated. It was a twist that made sense. It just was good. It was good.
I agree with you. Gabrielle Byrne, the unveiling of Gabrielle Byrne as Michael Byrne's mom, the Red Angel, I guess the original Red Angel, and then Michael becoming the second Red Angel.
Right.
But that was a big shock. But also the whole spear data. So back to my whole, like, looking at the B plot, that spear data concept and control. Control was scary to me. So not only with, like, that battle and the reason why they had to escape and then basically lose their identity and then move into the future, that control was scary all out. And as now we're in debates about AI, right? This is why I'm also thinking really just a lot of these themes in Star Trek in general, in Discovery, is ahead of its time, because I think that season came out in 2018. And now, like, AI is a topic of lots of conversation about, like, how to control it and the manipulation that's going on today.
Even Zora is AI almost. It becomes AI.
Yeah.
It's good AI versus bad AI. You know, that was it was just like, okay, which was like, got the thing that you think is going to be cool and you're going to control it, but
I still
no,
don't
so
like
this
Zora,
time you got away from you.
I still don't trust Zora. I don't trust her. When she started thinking for herself, I was like, nah, we don't need that.
Oh man,
I
that
can't
was
allow
the
you to do that
concept,
because
though.
you could get hurt.
Yeah. Oof. Like, Zora, give me the coordinates. Zora. It was a Hal moment. I mean, it was a 2001 Space Odyssey Hal opened the doors moment.
Like, what are we doing, Zora? What are we doing? let's make you an official member of Starfleet. You know what? We're not going down that road because we don't have time in this episode to discuss all those things and my feelings about Zora. That's another podcast episode to discuss Zora. Moneca, what is your final memorable moment, thought?
I am disappointed that there was a really underutilized character. And so that is Dr. Pollard. And I feel as though she should have had
Oh,
more props and more lines and more significance, especially in season 5. I missed quite a few of the other characters. There's like, we didn't, and I know that there were scheduling issues, but I missed them. And I missed them a lot because even since season 1, they've talked about family is who you make of it. It's not necessarily which family you're born with, but you develop a work wife or work husband or whatever. Like you make these connections, and so there's lots of blended families. And so I feel like we there was this character that was left. And if there was a change for season 5 and a whole series, I would try to integrate her more because there's also this is a science vessel. And I think there could have been more medical research conducted between Dr. Hugh Cobbler and Dr. Pollard. I'm jealous of Strange New Worlds and the relationship between the medical staff there. And I wish there was that same medical collaborations, especially when trying to find out the anatomy of the brain and these other types of, I think, medical type of scenes that we had. And so I just want to mention that that's an opportunity that was lost.
you're making me raise an eyebrow looking at the treatment of Nurse Chapel in the new series versus Dr. Pollard in this series, and how much screen time. And I know she's a major character in that show, and she's got a major plot line with Spock, and that's the way it was written. But it didn't have to be. I mean, it was barely there in the original series. You didn't have to pull it out, but you did. And yeah, I think that's interesting that we did not get the same kind of love for the rest of the medical staff, especially since it was such a medical show. I mean, there was so much stuff going on with everybody, and Culber barely got any. He finally got some cred, and it was only when he started to be like a Troy. It wasn't even because he was a great doctor. It was because he was people get through their mental things rather than their physical things. So
when we discussed Strange New Worlds, Chapel was a main character too. And so it is very interesting how different the medical staff is on Discovery versus how it was on the Enterprise. It is interesting because I feel like it's Discovery, while it was supposed to be a science vessel, put so much emphasis on like family and like chosen family that we only saw specific people because they were a part of the family.
Right.
And it was like, hey, you're also coworkers. So let's see some other people.
Yeah. Thank God there's 4 drivers in engineering, or we would have never saw those people.
And then Jet just came in when she made sense. So it was very interesting of what type of family Discovery was showing.
Yeah.
And let's be super honest, we definitely could have used her a lot more because there was a lot of medical issues and questions. And she didn't need to only come in when Hugh was down. She could have came in. Maybe she had a psychologist degree that could have been an actual person they talk to, because not all medical degrees means you know how to deal with someone's mental health.
Exactly.
So,
exactly.
Going on to you, Subrina, what is your third and final memorable moment, thought, love, hate from this season? Series.
The one that actually made me cry like a baby was when they raised the Federation flag, when Burnham raised the flag in season 3. I was like to die. And they had a bookend episodes where you had that first episode when that guy was just doing this he was doing this for generations. They'd been trying to wait for he wasn't an officer and couldn't raise the flag. I mean, okay, you know what? Strike that line and just raise the flag. He was like, no, I can't do it. And when that thing came down with the stars, I was like, oh yeah, the Federation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I forgot about that from season 3. Yeah, that was great. I did cry too. That was beautiful.
Oh man, not Starfleet. it was the Federation.
Mm-hmm.
I love that they brought that in, that, we were going to fix it. It was going to be put back together. It had been rendered asunder by that little screaming kid, but they were going to fix it. And I was so excited to see the buildup of the rebuilding of the Federation. I really think that was something that I missed in Star Trek. They did a little bit of it, but I really would wanted to see them build again, like that one episode where they went to that butterfly planet and those guys were like, I'm so done with you, Federation people. That was key. I love that. I mean, they were just like, oh yeah, you and the dilithium, no, I don't need you. I wanted more of that. I wanted the butterfly people to come back too.
Oh, they were funny. They were fun. You keep her captive? So I will go into my final memorable moment thought of the series. And this is the hill that I will die on.
All right.
I will die on this hill every day for the rest of my
Okay.
life. My theory will never change. Michael did not start the war with the Klingons. She did not start it. They were going to fire no matter what. It was not her fault. The only thing that she was guilty of was, yes, she tried to knock out her captain. Yes, that was her fault. But blaming all these deaths in these war on her was not Michael's fault. They were going to fire first. The Klingons were going to attack. That was never a question. So it's
coming.
Yes, it was never not going to happen. The Klingons wanted to attack. Michael was trying to stop it. And if Michael got her way and fired first, I firmly believe the war would not have happened. If she was able to destroy them before they had a chance to attack and send out scouts or whatever,
right?
They were going to kill them first. It was not Michael's fault. It was a hill that I would die on. She did not deserve to go to jail and be treated like like she was. Did she attack her captain? Yes. Should she have been reprimanded for that? Yes. But to the extent where people are blaming their friends and family's death on her, no, that was not her fault. If Georgiou was in charge for them, I love her. But if she was in charge from the beginning, the Klingons would have still attacked. Yeah. It would have never made a difference. That is the hill that I would die on, people. My thoughts will never change. That is the end of my TED Talk. Thank you.
Nope. and we saw what would have happened. Actually, I always think of this when I see that. If it was when Spock told Kirk, he said, if these are truly offsprings of the Vulcans, we need to stop this ship now. Spock said the same daggone thing. Her brother said the same thing. Like, you need to kill these Romulans now before they get to the neutral zone. And Kirk said, I think you're right. At least he listened to his boy. But Spock was like, no, my sister went through this. Now, let me, excuse me, I can't tell you anything about that, but.
Like, end it. It's over. It's done. Let's not open this.
It was the same situation.
Yes. And that is the hill that I will die on.
I'm right behind you.
Yes. So as we go into the end of this episode, because we're almost like this Discovery's done and it's weird.
Oh, so
we
sad.
have our final thoughts.
The series started with Michael landing on and conducting research at the Klingon cemetery. Really, it was a spaceship where they housed the dead. And so there was the ramifications to that, and that unfolded, as you said, in many different ways that shouldn't have. But it's interesting how the series ended with life itself. And so you took us on a journey from really how the Klingons were taking pride and reflecting upon the life of their kin, their family, and it was on a space vessel, and that's their way, that's their cultural thing, right? And then took us on this journey, and we explored lots of worlds and universes along the way, and then wrapped us back around to, well, how was life created in different worlds? And although I don't like that progenitor tech ending, I appreciate how this has come around from and the lots of different storylines along the way. I appreciate also how Discovery has blossomed into lots of other shows and books and comics and graphic novels and so forth. I mean, there's 9 Star Trek Discovery novels. There's more than 15 comics and graphic novels. There's like after treks and short treks and Strange New Worlds and Starfleet Academy, Section 31 movie, and the list goes on and on. So if this show failed, all of those others would have not existed. And so it has blossomed and grown and really set benchmarks for also the type of high-tech tools that's needed for storytelling. We are long now past the days of the Gorn and inflatable suits and all of the old tech. Like now you have to spend millions of dollars in the production of each episode of a streaming series because this works, and we need to see more of it. We need to also see more diversity. We need to also see more ramification for actions, not just, oh, the next day, this issue that we had in the last episode doesn't exist anymore. Let's move on to the next day. No. Like, all of this has to have better synergy, and I appreciate the fact that Discovery is representing the audience that we have now, and it's made a really good entry point of Star Trek for a lot of different people that weren't interested in adopting it before for many different reasons, but it adopts newcomers, and I love Discovery for that.
Subrina, what would be your final thoughts or wrap-ups from this series?
Well, look, you were talking about all the things that have come out of Discovery being successful on Paramount Plus. All the podcasts that came out. I mean, everybody was talking about the same old legacy Trek forever and ever and ever. And now you have all this stuff. I mean, it birthed the Sci-Fi Sisters, and I can't tell you how happy we have been and how well received we've been welcomed with in Paramount and in other production companies with recognizing Black science fiction and Black science fiction fans. And I really, the Blerds, I think it really just has made all of us front and center that we are a big part of the fandom and that we are being appreciated and being catered to, fan serviced. Thank you. Thank you finally for doing a little bit of that. This is the first show that I have been personally watched the development, met the stars while it was in run, the first run. Which was huge. I mean, I watched Star Trek when I was 10. Did I write fan letters? Yes, I did. I was one of those children that wrote the letter to please save Star Trek. I did that. But this is so different. And to have, she is canon. It is canonized. You can't take it away. I don't care what you say. It happened. She's Fox's sister. Just get over it.
This got me back into Star Trek. I think in the first episode of Trekkie and Beyond, when we discussed like what got us into Star Trek, I watched it all the time with my dad. It was something that he and I he'd be working and I would go into his office, and this is before I realized there were more than one show. I was like, oh, these people are on today. Okay. Before I knew it was Enterprise and Next Generation and Deep Space Nine. I watched all of them apparently with him, not knowing it was more than one show. It was just different shows.
It's the next episode.
And I have just loved this. It made me feel closer to my dad as I watched Discovery because it was something I got to do with him. And so as he's passed, it's been something that's like, I can think back to, he would have loved this episode, or he would have been like, oh, what you doing? Or whatever, because we watched it together. I love that it birthed all of this new Star Trek for a new generation. Because it is sort of hard sometimes to go back and watch things from when, for some people, before they were born. I was born when, so not the original Star Trek came out, but when Enterprise and Voyager and Deep Space Nine, I was a child. And so it is even as an adult, going back and watching some of those episodes was like, oh, that didn't age well, or oh, that did age well. Like some of it was a little bit awkward. So it's nice to have a starting point for people who do want to get into Star Trek, but didn't really know where to start because sometimes maybe the show might have been a little bit too much for them in the way that it originally was. I love the retelling of some of these characters. I love that this is the reason why we do have Strange New Worlds, why we do have Lower Deck. Heck, why Prodigy, a version for kids, came out. There was so much that came from Discovery working. And I'm just so glad that I got to watch it. Even though there were some episodes I was just like, whew, this is hard to watch. I don't know how I got through this one. This one was not a good episode. I am thankful to it as a whole because we need sci-fi. We need Black people in sci-fi who exist for the fact that we just exist. So that is my final thought about this series. I'm so thankful to it. And so, as always, I'm Andrea.
And I'm Moneca.
And I'm Subrina.
And live long and prosper.